Hello, 5th grade from Studio B, Mr. Bauer, your third or fourth favorite math teacher. I'm just throwing that out, somewhere in there. So this is, when you're watching this is Wednesday, May 13th, okay? And we are finishing Unit 6 today. We are doing all of Module 4, okay? Since this is a Wednesday, I obviously give you extra work because you have from Wednesday to Sunday. And we're just gonna zip through Module 4. So after this video, you can, anything Module 4 in Student Book and Home Connections, just complete, okay? Just one sitting, 5 sittings, doesn't matter, complete Unit 6, Module 4, everything, okay? All right, so as we start Module 4, we had a problem string in our teacher's guide. I cut it in half because it's, we're working on time limits for these videos. So the problem string here was 2.5 times 18, and the 5th grade Bridges wants you, yes, I know Toby's thinking right now, well, this is 5/2 times 18 over 1. I know, but Bridges wants, I know you're thinking that, Toby. I thought of that even before I said that. But Bridges wants you to see the area model, okay? So when you look at an area model or an array, however you want to say it, we have 2.5 down, 18 across. We get 36, and 1/2 times 18 is 9, okay? Well, they also wanted to show you if you double and halve, cut in half, so we halved 2.5 and we doubled 36, and as you can see, we end up with 45 for both of them, okay? They wanted you to see that. You can also do, if you look at this one, 3 1/3 times 27. 3 1/3 down, 27 across. We have 3 times 27 is 81. 1/3 times 27 is 9. You add those together, you get 9. But look what happens over here. If you multiply the 3 1/3 times 3, you get 10. And if you remember doubling and halving, well, triples and divided by 3 works too. So 27 divided by 3 is 9. You get your 90. Okay, now the bottom one is kind of like, hey, if you ended up with a problem like this, you don't have to worry about doing an area model. You don't have to worry about doing a mixed number or an improper fraction. If you double 3 1/2, you get 7. And if you cut 12 1/2, you get 6. Both of these are 42. They're both 42 because doubling and halving again, okay?
That 7 times 6 is a much easier problem, Mr. Bauer.
Yep.
Wow.
And that's why when we start talking about doubling and halving, sometimes if you just take 2 more seconds and look at a problem, there might be a simpler way, right? Okay, let's look at some student book pages. So on 246, somewhere on that page, they talk about 2.5 times 4.5. And here's the area model for that. So you have 2.5 down, 4.5 across. And we're going to have 4 partial products, okay? Now I know you guys know this. 2 times 4 is 8. 1/2 times 4 is 2. 2 times 1/2 is 1. Okay? And then 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. So when we add those up, 11 1/4, easy, okay? Now I did this one for Toby, okay? So we also could do it 5/2 times 9/2, which is 45/4, which is also, excuse me, 11 1/4, okay? So yeah, there's these 2 ways right now, and Bridges wants you to know both of them. That Bridges, they want you to know more than one way, okay? Now, let's skip a beat here and go to 249. Now, this is where we get into flags, okay? Now, if you like the Big Bang Theory, you know Sheldon likes flags, so you'll have fun doing this. So, the hoist and the fly. So, the hoist is when you hoist a flag up the flagpole and you got the rope. It's this side that goes right up the flagpole. It's the hoist. It's the width. The fly is the length. Okay? So for all American flags, for proportions, for ratios, the hoist, let's say, is 10 inches. The fly is always 19 inches. Or if you did 10 feet, the fly would have to be 19 feet. If you did 10 yards, the fly would have to be 19 yards. It's the ratio, okay? So we have a ratio table here on page 249, and you know, when you first look at it, you're like, man, there's a lot going on there. But if you look at each one, it kind of fits that it's all real doable with simple math, okay? So if we double the hoist to 20 inches, obviously you have to double the fly, okay? If we times 10 the hoist to 100, we have to times 10 the fly to 190. And these are all in inches on page 249. That's fine, okay? Then, what if we did times 5 for the hoist? We'd have to do times 5 for the fly. Or, you notice this was 100. Cut it in half, you get 50. You cut 190 in half, you get 95. Two ways of doing that one. Here's the interesting one, or two. Then we drop back to 1 inch, okay? We drop back to 1 inch. So we went from 10 inches to 1 inch, all right? Well, a lot of you are thinking, and correctly, that, oh yeah, Mr. Bauer, just divide by 10. So 10 divided by 10 is 1. 19 divided by 10 is 1.9, okay? But remember, and I even checked with high school teachers on this, when you're doing ratio tables, we don't usually divide on a ratio table. As you're expressing it out, expanding it out, you always multiply, okay? So let's look at the same problem again. So 10 inches times 1/10 is 1. 19 inches times 1/10 is 1.9, okay? So yeah, the division works, but for ratio tables, we're usually talking about multiplication, okay? Well, what about if the hoist goes to 2 inches? Okay, well, that doubled from this one. If you did this one right, you double it, 3.8. Or if you go all the way back here, this is times 1/5. So 10 times 1/5 is 2. 19 times 1/5 is 3.8, okay? Now there's 3 more on there, and I'm gonna let you finish those, okay? Now the last thing, so there's a bunch of problems like that, guys, and if you take what you learned right here, I'm sure most of what comes in the future pages you'll figure out, okay? If you know that, you'll figure it out. So home connections 129 looks at this, and it was 1 3/4 times 2.5. Okay, and so we went with area model. So we got 1 3/4 down, 2.5 across. I did the multiplication, so you can see here 2 and 1/2 plus a half. If you just do those 3 right there, it's 4. Okay, then you got 3/8, so 4 3/8. Now down below that on 129, it has something that looks like this, and it says blank times blank times blank times blank. Well, you know, they're just doing partial products, okay? So 1 3/4 times 2.5, these just go here. And it adds up to 4 3/8. So that's, I forget if it's number 1 or number 2 on 129, but that's what you're doing there, okay? So this is a lot in 10 minutes here or whatever, But this is the gist of what you're doing in Module 4. They'll obviously throw in probably some review pages for you at the end. Different things from previous modules or previous units, but I think you'll do fine. You can always email me if you have a question. So for your last assignment in Unit 6, you'll be doing student books 246 to 256 and home connections 129 to 132. Okay? So, I'm glad to be here. I'll answer your questions if you email me. Otherwise, have a great weekend coming up. All right? And this is Mr. Bauer signing off at Studio B.